Welcome back to Double Fries No Slaw. TJ Pittenger, Richie Barnes. We're not live right now. This is a pre-recorded, but this is our Sunday show. So if you're looking for today's live, it's not live. We're just pre-recording it and putting it out as a video. We will talk about last night's Stanford game, this morning's Stanford game, Richie, if you want to call it that. We'll talk about some speculation on potentially moving on from Mike Norvell. We'll talk about the latest reports on that and then wrap this up. We won't keep you too long. Richie, I don't know if you know this or not, but I went live at 2:30 last night. And so was on until about 3:30. And then I was too amped up to quit. And so, we're not going live again at this point. But if we get any breaking news, Richie and I will probably jump on live. No Bucks game today since we play on Monday night, Richie. So just very quickly, and we don't always do this during the pre-records, but very quickly, want to shout out Guthrie's. You can visit all three of their locations, 1818 West Tennessee, 2550 North Monroe, and 2870 Appalachia Parkway. Real quick love to Sleeper as well. You can use our code DFNS to get a free $20 entry on the Sleeper app. You get a 100% match up to $100 over there. And then as always, appreciate Tallahassee Ford for their support. We'll talk more about those other places. We'll talk more about all three of them as the week goes on, but just wanted to quickly give them love before we get into things. Richie, I ranted for an hour last night. And so I'll just shut up and let you kind of go, man. Before we get on to Fire and Norvell, which is where we're both at and where we've both been at, just inexcusable to outgain a team by 150 yards, be playing against a backup quarterback, the worst team in the ACC, the 106th best defense in the country, the 100th best offense in the country, and then them be down a starting offensive lineman, a starting running back, and a starting quarterback, starting cornerback as well, who's probably the best player on their team, and still lose the game. But in true Mike Norvell fashion, the team found a way. So hats off to them.
Yeah, and it was, I think, the most frustrating part. And you and I have both been saying that Norvell's got to go for weeks at this point. It's not just, this game. I think this game was probably the breaking point for a lot of the fan base, though, who said, well, we did beat Alabama, and Alabama's doing really well. However, this game, I think you cannot go into a conference game as a almost a 3-touchdown favorite, 18.5 points, and just lay a complete egg. And, it was situational, as you kind of alluded to. You had 444 yards, there were 293. You outpassed them by over, 140 yards. You kind of dominated the box score outside of time of possession, but this team looked like they had no fight. Like, it looks like when it was clear that the team had quit on Willie Taggart, you knew it was over. I've known this was over for a while at this point. If he didn't have the contract he had, he would have been fired after 2-10.
Yeah,
like the 2-10 is extremely inexcusable at a place like Florida State. That should never happen. You should never miss a bowl game at Florida State. And for the first 34 years of my life, we never did. But now here we are, and we're coming off 2-10. You beat Bama. Great job. What have you done since then? Mike Norvell is 44 years old and has not won an ACC game since he was 42 years old. It's just ridiculous at this point. The game was just an utter embarrassment. And what really pissed me off was all the dumb penalties, right? That was not a disciplined team. That was a team who seemed like they didn't really care. They took a 5-hour flight out to Northern California and decided, we're just going to do whatever we want to do. And it was just embarrassing to watch. And I'm pissed at myself for staying up till 3 a.m. to watch this game.
Yeah. Remember how, and I think I even told you this, like we even made kind of reference to it. Like I didn't even want to I said this last night too. So sorry, I'm not trying to repeat everything I said last night, but I didn't even want to do the preview show for Stanford. And we showed up and did it. We've not missed a preview show since we've started this thing.
5 years.
5 years. I didn't even want to do the preview show for Stanford because Stanford is so bad. And statistically, like you said, I mean, did you know that the win expectancy for Florida State was like 73% last night, just based on like EPA and how efficient they were and the total yards they had and stuff? If you take away all the scores and you just kind of go play by play and say, what's their win expectancy after every single play? It was 73% last night, Richie. Like, that's how much better you are than Stanford. Florida State wasn't even good, and they were that much better, but they just could not finish and they could not be a competent team. And so I didn't even want to do the preview for Stanford because I didn't want to hype up a team that we were pretty much out on a week ago. We were out, well, probably before that, but I didn't want to hype up a team that we were already out on anyway. And so I wasn't even looking forward to the preview, right? And guess what? I won't be looking to the preview forward to the preview in a week and a half when we do it for a week. I hope you guys still tune in. But we talked about how we didn't even want to do it because, man, it felt like such a nothing game. Yes, we're going to go out to Stanford and we're probably going to win big. Vegas watched the last 3 weeks. They watch you get pushed around and they still made you an 18.5-point favorite. And that line didn't like come down drastically like the Louisville-Miami game did or whatever over the weekend. It was, no, Florida State's going to go out there. They're not a good team, but they're still going to beat the crap out of Stanford. And they couldn't even do that, man. Like, just the way that they came out and just the lackadaisical effort. Mike was asked about this in the post-game press conference. Did you think your team's effort wasn't there? And let me tell you, I think Tommy's effort was there. I think there was effort by some of the guys. I think Deuce, I think certain guys played hard in situations. But I think they came out there and really just from the,
I didn't care.
From the first play, when you have a delay of game to start the game.
How do you have a delay of a game on the first play of the game when you have a script?
Call it a play there. You've rehearsed it. That's why scripted drives often work because you've rehearsed them so well. And teams usually start out with a touchdown or a field goal on the first drive because it just works well scripted. And so from the very beginning, and the fact that their running backs were able to just always fall forward for 3 or 4 yards, this is Stanford, man, not Miami. And so we're obviously so over it, but you could just tell, man, like that team did not care last night. No. I think they thought going into the game, Richie, that, hey, we're Florida State and this is Stanford. And I know that it hasn't been good this year. And I know that we haven't been good this season post Bama, but we're going to walk all over them. And in truth, you did, just not on the scoreboard, just not where it mattered, right? Like in truth, you did. You outgained them by 150 yards. You were way more efficient than they were for the season or for the game. And that falls on coaching. Mike Norvell opened the press conference saying, look, I didn't have them ready to play. Brother, you lost 3 games in a row and you haven't won an ACC game in over a year. What do you mean you didn't have them ready to play? Like, that's a fireable offense, and it should be fireable with cause. Unfortunately, it's not, but that's a fireable offense. To go into that press conference, I mean, losing itself is fireable, without a doubt. But to go into that press conference and say, I didn't have them ready, what? How did you not have them ready, bro? You didn't know your job was on the line? You didn't know that this fan base that is calling for your head wasn't going to be ready? Like, what are you saying you didn't have them ready?
You're coming off 3 straight losses. You have not won an ACC game, and it's going to be 400 days plus before we play Wake Forest. That is unacceptable. This is Florida State. This isn't Duke. This isn't Boston College or Wake Forest, whatever it may be. But when he said that, I would have rather him just talk some,
just blame the players, bro.
Just blame the crap line and be like, we did everything we needed to. We just didn't execute like something. But to say I didn't have them ready after 3 straight losses. So you're telling me it
wasn't coach speak. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it wasn't coach speak. He's completely correct. He didn't have them ready.
No, 100%. And that was obvious from literally the first play of the game when you have a delay of game. And then you get another delay of game on a field goal attempt that you end up moving back 5 yards and you don't convert on that one. It was just, it's ridiculous the level of competency that we've seen the last 2 seasons. 13-0, let's call it what it was, TJ. It was an anomaly. That's all it was. He got lucky. He hit on Keon in the portal. He had Jordan Travis, who he did not recruit. He inherited Jordan Travis. And he was able to have some other players. And now that everyone understands that, you can go get some players in the portal, he's just not the same coach at all. It is maddening watching these games. My wife, she just started nursing school, so she picked up a part-time job at the hospital, working nights, and she got home at around 11 o'clock at night, and she walked in. She's like, "That bad already?" She just saw the look on my face when I'm watching the game, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's that bad." And Mike Norvell is the person to blame, and get him out of Tallahassee. If he's not fired today, there will be a lot of very pissed off Florida State fans and boosters, and money will start to dry up. And it's cheaper, in my opinion, to pay a $55 million buyout than to let him stay on the sidelines for another 2 to 3 years.
When, it was frustrating. Were we down 14? Was it 14 to nothing? Was it 10 to nothing? I don't know what the score was, but I very much was frustrated when their quarterback got hurt, because I thought, and I tweeted this too, I thought, oh man, we are not good enough to beat this team, or we are not coached well enough, prepared well enough, whatever word you want to use there. But I literally thought to myself, we are not good enough to beat this team. But because this backup's going to come in, and we scored right before the end of the half to make it closer. I think we made it 14 to 10 at that point. Mm-hmm. Can't even remember the scores of the game because I'm so out of it, but maybe it was 13 to 10. Score right before that. Yeah, that's right. 13 to 10 right before the half. Their quarterback's hurt, and we had just scored. I thought, we're going to win this game, and it's going to save his job. They're not good enough, but he's going to get lucky in the right way. He has been unlucky some.
Like Billy Napier last night.
Yeah, I thought, this is what's going to happen. We're going to win this game. And he couldn't even do that, right? A backup comes in, completes his first pass, takes them on a 94-yard drive against this Tony White defense that is complete trash. And I thought, man, we're gonna find a way to win. Even really down, what did we cut it to one score, I think, with like 9 minutes to go. I thought, well, they're going to tie it up, and they're probably going to find a way to win. And I'm going to be happy that they won, I guess, but also pissed that this experiment goes on for longer.
This is going to sound terrible. I wanted us to lose last night because I think we're at the point of just rip the Band-Aid off. Going into the game, I wanted us to lose. It sounds like a terrible fan, but
people will get on you for that. Okay, and here's what I want to say. It's very tough for me to like admit that out loud and say that, because I think mentally we're so invested, and you only get. I think whether you're on that side of wanting to lose or wanting to win, whatever, I think what everyone can agree on, the middle ground that like people will comment like, oh, I never want to see us lose a game and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. If that's your take, I'm okay with that. I think what everyone will agree on, Richie, no matter what side of the aisle you're on with that, is that losing that game is what's best for Florida State long-term. Now, yes. It may not have been what you wanted. You may have wanted to see us win last night because you only get so many games a year. What it reminded me of, and I texted, Peach. I was texting with Peach during the game, and I said, you know what this reminds me of? It's the ULM game, Willie's 2019 year, where I just kind of, at that point, I was like, I'm over it, man. I just want ULM to beat us so we can get out of this. And we didn't, they missed an extra point and we won. But that's what the game reminded me of. We're going to win a terrible game by 3 points or 7 or overtime by 6, whatever. And that's why we're going to have to continue this on. So again, whether you wanted us to lose or wanted us to win, that doesn't matter to me as much. What I will tell you is I think everyone can agree that that's what's best for Florida State long-term, because I do think it's going to force a change. The question now becomes, when does the change happen? Like, do you feel confident? Do you feel confident that it happens today?
I wasn't confident that. I was actually shocked when Willie Taggart got fired. When he did right after that Miami game. I'm not confident it happens today. That $55 million is a lot of dollars to come up with. But if it's going to happen, it needs to happen today, because you need to send a message to your fan base, to your boosters, to the people who support the program, that what we've seen this last month is completely unacceptable and it will not be put up with. So if it does happen, it needs to happen today. And I believe, I'm trying to think what time it was. It was a little later in the afternoon, around 3-4 o'clock, when the Willie news came out. I think if it's happening today, it's already happened, and it's just a matter of time until that news gets out. But I can promise you, if you want 15,000 people at the Wake Forest game, go ahead and keep them on.
Yeah, 5 of them, Wake Forest's entire fan base. Yeah, I mean, we're recording this. I'm going to put this out as soon as we're done recording it so that it doesn't become irrelevant if they do make a move. But we're recording this. It's 12:19 right now. I will say I think the team got back at like 9 a.m. You obviously got a cross country flight and you got to get showered and all that stuff. If they were in Tallahassee, maybe that's a little bit different. At this point, Billy Napier has not been fired either. So it does take some time to do this. I'm sure
He should have been fired if he had lost that game, but hey, he got a blessing.
I think he's going to get fired either way. We'll see. But
because they have a bye week as well.
Right. And so it does take some time to do this. You are negotiating. You're negotiating the buyout, right? I don't know how much will come off, but they will negotiate the buyout down some. I don't think it'll be very much. But they will, like even James Franklin, it got negotiated down by like $5 or $6 million, which at the end of the day, that's nothing compared to the 50 you owe them. But they're working on that. They're making calls, trying to raise money. I'm not surprised it hasn't happened yet at the time of this recording. I would lean 60-40 that it happens today. Now, at the same time, I predicted that Florida State would win their last 4 games on the show. I did that. I did that fake hype for Miami, but I did think they'd win the other 3 genuinely. So, maybe I should say the opposite and say 20-80 because that would make more sense. But I think there's a really good chance it happens today. If it doesn't happen today, I'll tell you, I'm 90% sure they move on from him by the end of the year. If they, for some reason, think that it's better to keep him and try and raise money from now until November 20, whatever, Black Friday the next day is, if they think it's better to try and raise money through that time and really piss people off, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter if you fire somebody today or at the end of November, in my opinion. But
this is fairly cryptic. But last week, Josh Pate tweeted out, this was the intro to Tuesday night. Multiple dominoes fell yesterday, and he just quote tweeted it and said, "It's happening again today." So that could be any one of a litany of coaches, but he seems to feel that there will be some news today. I don't know if that's around Mike Norvell, but I'm just refreshing my Twitter feed like nonstop now just to see if news does drop. But yeah, it has to happen. There is no way you can allow him to go out. Even if your mindset is let him coach through the end of the season and then we'll move on. Well, from a monetary standpoint, it does not make a difference in terms of what you have to pay the man. However, it does make a difference in the money that you are bringing in from the people who care and support and fund this program. So I think if you were to do a cost analysis, and there's a lot of people way smarter than me that could do this, I think long-term, it's better financially for Florida State to just cut ties right now than to just let him stay on for another year or 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is very costly to fire him. It is much more costly to let him continue to coach this team. And again, we all want it to happen today. We all want it to be over. We all want it to be done. As long as it happens by whatever, November 30th, that's really what matters. As we're talking about this, just got an update. Billy Napier just arrived at the football only facility from Florida. They have a staff meeting at 1 p.m., which is 38 minutes from now at the time that we're doing this. Let me also read this to you. Pete Nakos of On3 posted this. Give me just a moment. I know we don't usually take a lot of time on the pre-records, but I am sending something out real quick. Nakos posted this, and I'll just read it. Florida State sources have told On3 that the FSU decision makers are holding informal phone calls on Sunday morning to discuss the future under Mike Norvell. Florida State lost at Stanford last night, 20-13, extending the winless streak of ACC wins to well over a calendar year. Sources told On3 last week that there was a real concern whether the donors could be motivated to fund another Norvell roster. After the Stanford loss, it puts Norvell's future in serious doubt. He has one of the biggest buyouts in college football, sitting at north of $54.4 million. Norvell is 20-24 all time in the ACC and 1-11 in the last 2 seasons in conference play. Not saying that definitely means that they are firing him or not, but it does seem like the wheels are in motion for Florida State to at least attempt to make some kind of a move. There are always questions about how that buyout is structured. He will be owed 85% of his contract. Pete just told you it's $54.4 million, I think was the number that I just read off. I closed out of that screen, so I don't have it right up in front of me. But none of that money is due up front. Florida State has the option to pay it up front or in monthly installments. So that money, none of it would be due up front. Obviously, they would not choose to pay it up front unless somebody just handed them $54.4 million and said, make it happen. I doubt
So
that's
it'd be $46 million if it's 85%.
Well, no, he's owed more than that. So that 54
Okay.
is the 85%.
Shit.
So no money due up front, which is a little bit different than the Napier one that we continue to talk about him as well. Napier is owed 50% within, I believe, 30 days. So a little bit of a blessing that Florida State is not owed, or Florida State will not owe Mike Norvell that money up front. If you are able to negotiate the buyout down, I think the best thing that Florida State could do would be to extend that out instead of it being over 5 or 6 years. Can you get him to agree to 8 years? Hey, can we go $45 million over a longer period of time? I don't know how realistic that is. Florida State really with no leverage to be able to do that, because at the end of the day, the leverage is with the coach that you promised way too much money to. But if you could negotiate something like that, or keep the number high, but say we'll go over more years, I think that would be helpful for Florida State in the near term. But it does seem like the wheels are in motion, whether it's today or at the end of the year. I cannot imagine that Mike Norvell is your coach to start 2026.
Give him the Bobby Bonilla treatment, right? Just man, for the next 40 years, we're going to give you $1 million. And, if anything happens to you, your kids get it. Yeah, just do it that way. That would be the best way to do it. I'm only halfway joking, but yeah, it's frustrating that, you let an anomaly of a season turn into one of the worst contracts in college football history. Right up there with Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, right? Like they thought they were getting this bargain at $75 million for 10 years. Just embarrassing that we got finessed into this. And if there was any reason for me to hate Alabama more, it's that they did not hire Mike Norvell instead of Kevin DeBoer, because we might not have had a great coach, but we would not be stuck in this situation right now. I do think I'll say this: when it comes to Florida State, people joke about our finances and whatnot. The money's there. If Michael Alford wants to make this decision, which he should, and I know he watches our show, I know he follows both of us on X. That is the right decision to make. Otherwise, his job is on the line if he continues to allow this to happen. Because when the funds dry up, it's an issue. It's a major issue, and that's the very, very quick path we're heading on.
Yeah, it is daunting to think about the buyout. It is much worse than thinking about continuing on down this path. Richie, I said this last night, and I'll wrap up with this unless you have any other thoughts. We've talked about the game. We've talked about what we need to do. We've talked about the latest news that we've gotten from NACOS. Actually, just saw somebody else post on Twitter. I don't know if this is accurate or not, that the staff does have a meeting later today at 4 p.m. That's a regularly scheduled meeting. And so I don't think there's anything to be up in arms about on that. If the time changes at all, you could certainly kind of read into that. I wouldn't read into the fact they have a staff meeting today. They have one every Sunday after games. So my kind of final thought here on this is you are in a situation where you have to move, and you're going to see a lot of openings. I think Auburn's going to open. I think there's a chance that LSU could open. I certainly think that Florida opens, and Florida State has to decide whether or not they're serious about this. And again, whether it happens today or later in the year, that's fine. The one thing about it potentially happening today is that, Richie, I think he lost most of the fan base last year, right? And that understandable. You go 2-10. I think he lost
all last night.
He lost more donor support last year, lost more this year. And from a fan base standpoint, I think he's really lost guys. The biggest thing that I saw last night is I think he lost the team. And
Yeah.
so that would be your motivation for doing it faster. Your motivation, how it affects the future, it doesn't really. If you do it today or you do it in late November, I don't think that matters. It's not going to change who you hire or whatever. Maybe it would change a James Franklin hire if that's the way you wanted to go, because you could do that right now instead of waiting. But 90% chance or more, it doesn't impact it. But now that you've lost the team, which I do think he did last night, his message has rang hollow to us for over a year.
Oh,
But
we're going to respond,
the
TJ. No,
message
don't worry.
to the team and losing those guys is so much more serious. And that's why I think you probably need to make a change sooner rather than later. It doesn't matter for the donors. It doesn't matter for the fans. We're just all going to be pissed off for the next 5 or 6 weeks anyway. That doesn't matter. Now that the team is lost and the team has quit on him, and you could tell me their energy, this, that, Tommy, I get it. Prayers up to Tommy after that dirty hit. But now that you're telling me that he's lost the team too, you got to move on. You can't be in a situation where you're waiting on that. So that's my final thought. Anything from you before we go?
Yeah, no, it's time to go. 2013 was a really fun season, and Norvell deserves credit.
2023, bro. Don't be
Or
going back that
2023,
far.
excuse me. It was a really fun season, and Norvell does deserve credit for that. But outside of that, even the year before that, when we won the Cheez-It Bowl against Oklahoma, was that really a great season, or were we just excited that we finished on a 7-game win streak and got to 10 wins? Outside of that, he's done nothing, and he's not going to ever do anything. He's never recruited an elite recruiting class. It's over. And again, just rip the Band-Aid off. I don't know why we are continuing to do this. I think the logical reason is getting the funds in order to make sure we can buy him out. We're going to have to buy the entire staff out as well. So that's an extra expense. And then can we get a coach that we need? My thought is there's going to be a lot of openings. There already are. If you want to get a head start on things, pull the plug today.
Yeah.
That would be my advice.
Needs to be done, needs to be gotten over with. And the fan base, the players, the donors, the boosters, the alumni, the former players, the city of Tallahassee, the people that support us, they all deserve better.
Local businesses,
And it didn't work out with Mike. It sucks, but we all deserve better. I said this last night too. I know I said I'm already done with my thoughts, but myself included, and it's not a lot. It's not enough to matter. But a lot of people gave more money to Florida State this year than they ever have in their lives because of the renovations, because of the upgrades and prices, because of all those things, because of being bought back in and wanting to see this thing go right. A lot of people gave a lot more money to Florida State than they ever have. And we all deserve a lot better. So, again, appreciate Guthrie's, appreciate Sleeper, appreciate Tallahassee Ford for their support. This is our show today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know you probably didn't, but, I have to say those things anyway. We will be back if any news breaks. And for our mental health sake, hopefully it does sooner rather than later. So we'll talk to you guys soon. Go Noles.
Go Noles.